Welcome to NinjaCast, a photography podcast powered by Studio Ninja, the world's highest rated business management app, built specifically for photographers. Listen and learn as the most successful photographers on the planet share their knowledge to help you transform every element of your photography business. Here's your host, Sally Shaw.
Hi guys, welcome to NinjaCast. Today I'm joined by the incredible Anna Hardy. Anna used to be a wedding photographer for over 10 years and has now made the transition into family photography. In this episode, you're about to find out about the nitty-gritty and the highs and the lows of that transition. I can't wait to get started. Let's get going.
Did you have a good weekend?
Yeah, super busy as always. How about you?
Yeah, it was good. It was good, thanks. Just pottering with the kids, really.
Yeah.
And my little one loves Halloween, like more than anything, more than Christmas, more than anything. So we have to have like a Halloween weekend. So.
Oh, that's lovely. So that's this weekend's plans then?
Yeah, it's kind of seeped into today as well. It's basically just about a week of relentless spooky activities. So
oh bless, that's really lovely. How's things with you business wise?
Yeah, all right, thanks. I mean, they've been tough, not gonna lie. It's been pretty hairy, really. But I think I'm lucky. I mean, I shot weddings for over 10 years, but I stopped doing them 2 or 3 years ago. So I mean, I feel horribly sorry for, I've got so many wedding photographer friends who are just on their knees at the minute, whereas family photography, obviously it's not been it's been limited a lot more than it would be normally, but we can still do it. So it's not as difficult for me as it is for many.
Yeah, no, definitely, absolutely. So tell me a little bit about you, your business, where you've come from, your journey. I'd love to know more.
Okay, so I am Anna. I'm a family photographer based in Manchester, and I have been I've been a photographer for about 13 years now, but I was initially a wedding photographer, and I shot only weddings for, I don't know, maybe sort of at least 5 years, and then I started doing families alongside weddings, and it kind of just grew, really. I just really loved it, and so I stopped shooting weddings after about 10 years of doing them. I felt that I was ready to move on to just shooting families. So that's what I do now. But I do a lot of education for photographers as well. I used to be a teacher before I was a photographer. So it feels a bit, it's nice combining the two.
Yeah.
It's to sort of help people to fulfill their potential, and to do the things that they want to do. So I really enjoy now combining the teaching and the photography.
Definitely. It's like kind of bringing two passions into one, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So how was it kind of moving from wedding photography into family photography? Was that quite a transition for you?
It kind of happened really gradually, to be honest, and really organically at first, because I had been shooting weddings for a few years, and then it started happening, as I'm sure it does for a lot of wedding photographers, that ex-wedding clients then have babies and ask you to come back and photograph their family. So it kind of just happened really gradually, and I just did it like that to begin with. And for a while it was very much only past clients. But then gradually I started doing more for people that weren't past clients, just families, and I just loved it. I've loved it from day dot, really. And I've always found with weddings, I would be just fascinated by the children at the wedding, and I'd often have to force myself to leave the children and go back because I was but often people would book me. They said that they specifically booked me because of my pictures of children, particularly if, say, the couple getting married already had children of their own, or maybe they had nephews or nieces, or, you know, friends' children who are really important to them. So the ones who kind of felt that they really wanted the magic of the children captured at their wedding, they tended to often say that was one of the reasons that they booked me. So it kind of was something that I really noticed in my wedding work, was a passion of mine anyway.
Yeah. And do you still do any weddings at all, or is it completely just families now?
Yeah, just families. I did it was really scary sort of announcing that weddings, you know, but I've been quite strict about it. I stopped taking bookings, how long ago? I probably stopped do you know what, this is crazy actually. In my head I'm thinking, oh, it's a couple of years, but actually now I'm doing the maths, I reckon it's more like 5.
Really?
So,
wow.
Because the thing is, from the moment that you say you're not going to take bookings, you still will shoot weddings for a couple of years after that, because obviously people have already booked you in, and, you know, they can book you a year or 2 in advance. So I think I sort of announced, right, I'm not taking anymore. And then I had a couple of years where I wasn't taking new bookings, but I was still shooting the ones that I'd done, and it kind of just then tailed off. And I shot my last wedding, I think in 2018, 2 years ago, summer 2018. I loved them. I really loved shooting them, but I feel that I stopped it at the right time. I had nothing but kind of good feeling for them.
Yeah.
I was getting a bit old, I think, as well.
Never, not a chance. I think, you know, that's a definite pull. I mean, the big thing with wedding photographers is it's every weekend, isn't it? It's always weekends. There's no family time at weekends because you're out shooting weddings. Some people can do kind of 2 and 3 in a weekend. I guess with family portraits, you don't get that so much. You know, it might be weekend work, but it's a few hours maybe.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was a big thing for me. As much as I loved shooting weddings, and I probably would have continued to shoot them for longer if there had been more midweek weddings. But yeah, I just, after 10 years of not having, or rarely having weekends free, I just really wanted to change my working hours as much as anything. So I do still do shoots at weekends, but a lot of family shoots are midweek as well, particularly if people are off on mat leave, and there's a lot of flexible working nowadays. So even if, say, one parent does have a 9-to-5 job, they can often twiddle their hours a little bit, or some often take half a day off and just make a day of it. Or so a lot of them will still book midweek. And like you say, if it is a weekend, I'm just out for a couple of hours in my jeans rather than getting, you know, all the sort of just because a wedding just seems to take the entire weekend, because the night before you're good for nothing, so you're so nervous and you're prepping and you're getting everything ready early night. Obviously the day of the wedding, it's the whole day, and then you feel like you've been run over the day after.
The wedding hangover is a real thing.
So yeah, it's a lot easier really shooting at weekends as for family photography.
Definitely. It sounds like more of like a real lifestyle choice for you, like it was giving you your family back.
Absolutely. I mean, it's kind of you know, my job's really important to me. I love being a photographer, but my children are more important to me. And my fact, you know, and that's not to take anything away from the photography. So I love it. I'm passionate about it. I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. But, you know, I wouldn't want my family to suffer for it. And I love hanging out with my kids, and not just my kids, but also things like, you know, barbecues. And, well, not that we can have them at the moment, but normally, you know, Sunday dinner and barbecue with your friends, and because everyone else is off at the weekend. So I really enjoy the novelty of a non-working weekend, or only doing a little 2-hour shoot has still not worn off years later. I don't think it ever will, actually.
No, I think we've all got used to that kind of at the moment, haven't we? As you know, I'm a wedding photographer as well, and I know a lot of our listeners may be wedding photographers thinking about, you know, pivoting in this time, or looking to get another string to their bow, or maybe even, you know, they're already family photographers and they already photograph children. But I think as wedding photographers, we've got so used to having these weekends off right now. And, you know, family time is every weekend now, which is amazing. I shot a wedding on Friday of last week.
Oh, how wonderful.
And it was surreal. Really,
Yeah.
it's the first one I've done since January. So I've shot 2 in the entirety of 2020. That's me done now till February next year. But working again at a wedding felt really strange. But I think, I mean, it was a Friday, so I think I wrapped my head around it a little bit more because it's classed as a weekday. But I think had it have been a Saturday or Sunday, it'd have really thrown me.
Yeah, I know, that's it. It's odd. I think this is going to change the whole sort of fabric of how everyone works, just in all industries. I mean, there's been lots of talk about in office jobs, people being told for ages, no, you can't work from home, and now they've shown that they can. But I think even for jobs like ours, where we're at, things aren't going to be done in the same way, are they? And we'll all feel slightly differently about it. I think it's kind of certainly amongst my wedding photographer friends, people seem to be in one of two camps. It's either kind of made them feel that they really need, well, if not an exit strategy from weddings, at least a secondary income, something else. Yeah. But others have said, actually, do you know what? It's just made me realise how much I love it and how much I miss it. And when they have had the odd one, like you've done, they've sort of been nervous, but they've said, oh, it was just so amazing. And it's kind of made them almost like reignited the passion for it again. So yeah, I
definitely I felt that nervousness. When I was shooting kind of 40 plus weddings a year each year, I lost that nervousness a little bit the night before a wedding. I was just like, it's cool, I've got this, it's a wedding, it's what I do. But oh my God, was I nervous on Thursday. I must have triple checked my gear at like 10 times and sleep all night, and I was like, I know what I'm doing here, why am I nervous? But it's just being out of the game for so long.
Yeah, exactly. It's your mind kind of recalibrates, doesn't it? And yeah, very strange. I mean, even like socially it's odd. I mean, I'm in Manchester, so we're kind of under tier 3. To be honest, we've been under similar restrictions for the last 3 months. We had a weird week. We've not been allowed in other people's back gardens even for months and months since the summer, really.
Yeah.
But we had, when they brought in the tier things, because we got put into tier 2 initially before tier 3, we had this weird week where suddenly just for 1 week we were allowed in other people's back gardens again. And happily it coincided with one of my best mates' birthday, so we sort of, but half of me was going, this is amazing, I get to see my friends and I can sit in a garden, we can, but half of me was thinking, but I've got to get out of my pajamas, I've got to leave the house. Oh no, it was like, I felt really, it's just odd, it's like kind of reprogrammed all of our mind, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
But in a way, that's kind of exciting, isn't it? Because it's a chance for new, when you're in a rut and you're sort of shoot, edit, shoot, edit, shoot, edit, shoot, edit like it normally is, you don't really get time to kind of reassess things or to think, how am I feeling about this? Am I enjoying this? What am I not enjoying? What's working? What's not? Because you're just doing all the time. So actually what this has kind of given us, as weird as it is, and as much as, I wish it hadn't happened, you've got to kind of find the benefits in it, haven't you? And I think it has been a really good opportunity to sort of take stock and think, well, how do I want things to look from this point forward?
Absolutely. There's been so much reflection in the wedding industry, hasn't there? So many people, reworking on how they run their business, how they want to run it in the future, reevaluating what's worked and what hasn't. And yeah, it's definitely, as you say, although it's been such a terrible time for the industry, I think the people that are going to come out the other side are going to be so much stronger and, even more so raring to go.
Absolutely. And I think there'll be a real sort of, not just within the industry, but within people purchasing photography, they're going to have, I mean, everyone's always loved a good wedding, everyone always loves going to a wedding, they're fun, but just think how joyful they're going to be after this. It's just going to be ramped up, by 1,000,000, isn't it? They're going to value it so much more. And so from a business point of view, people buy what they value, they pay for what they value. And I feel that the perceived value of, weddings and wedding photography is going to skyrocket because we've been deprived of it for so long. And the same with families, remember my mum saying on the phone when it all first happened and we first got locked down, she was like, I'm so worried for you, Anna. She was like, it's just that, you know, family photography, it's like a luxury, you know, people don't need it, so you're just not going to get any business. I'm so worried, you know. And I said to her at the time, I mean, obviously I was sort of crapping myself too and thinking, oh no, this could be true. But what I said to her, and which happily seems to have turned out to be the case, is, you know, what I'm hoping actually is it's going to make people value it more, because it's made everyone very conscious of how quickly time passes and how easy it is to miss things and how life doesn't wait. You know, we were all locked down, but we weren't kind of in this sort of, you know, cocoon. We were sort of in a cocoon, but things didn't stand still. Babies were born, children changed, kids got to school age. It's kind of, and, you know, and sadly, you know, people weren't able to see their families always. There was a real, I think people have, and also people have spent a lot more time with their families. Yeah. They've sort of appreciated things and appreciated the simple things as well, like simple daily things, and a walk in the local area, or just baking in the kitchen, or planting some stuff in the garden. All that stuff that was kind of often overlooked as just, you know, it's kind of, I think there's been a real renewed appreciation for the simple things and for the family ties and bonds and how quickly things can change. So actually I've found people happily seem to really want family photography in some ways more than ever.
I think they want to document it as well, don't they? Like, it's such a crazy, unheard of, once in a lifetime, you know, in years to come we'll all be telling the great grandchildren about that time that coronavirus locked the entire country down, and, you know, we didn't leave our homes and we all went out and clapped hands and banged our hands on a Thursday. Like, it's unheard of. So I think in that respect, you know, people definitely want to document everything that's going on and document how they've grown through it, don't they? So yeah, I'm really glad that things have carried on for you and flourished in just a kind of a slightly pivoted way.
Yeah, thank you. It's definitely been I mean, it definitely was hard, and particularly early lockdown. I mean, my inquiries just stopped altogether for about 3 months, and, you know, there were no family shoots. But also what I think has been really encouraging about all of this is what happened with a lot of photographers. You know, so many of us did doorstep shoots. Yeah. Well, what happened was we weren't able to work. We needed income. We weren't able to work in the way that we normally did. And so it forces people to be really resourceful. You start doing things that you push yourself to do things that you wouldn't normally do. But actually what happened was people were, you know, I mean, I did them. I was making probably less than minimum wage, to be honest, from them. But I was paying the bills. Yeah. You know, I might not have been earning my best months, but I was putting food on the table. Absolutely. And, you know, and actually some people, I know at least 2 photographers who actually the doorstep shoots has just completely made them. You know, it's really, they got so much publicity for it that it's actually skyrocketed their business. Or Tim Dunk, who does the FaceTime portraits over FaceTime. I mean, that's just a perfect example of just finding something different to do, and you being inventive. When you have to be, you can do it, and you can, you know. And he's made such an amazing success of it, and, you know, it's kind of, I think it's a good lesson for in other times that actually it's so easy to become complacent and just keep doing the same old. But it's the whole thing of, like, if you just keep doing the same thing and expecting different results, it's, you know, it's nonsense. But actually this has forced people to try different things, to push themselves out of their comfort zone. One photographer I know who's done really well from it, Hannah, she's lovely. She'd literally just quit a corporate day job the month before the lockdown. She'd finally, like, made the leap and handed in her note, you know, and left a secure, well-paid job to be a photographer full-time, and then COVID, and she's doing weddings as well. I mean, it just, my heart just went out to her. But what she did, she was wanting to do, she was at that point that we've all been at, when you're just starting out and it's hard, you sort of aren't, you can feel nervous about putting yourself out there, but it makes you go out there. And I know other photographers at a similar point in their business when it was like probably their mind would have kept them in their comfort zone and gone, oh no, don't go out, on going door to door, and don't do this because it feels nerve-wracking to do it. But because you have to do it, they've done it, and actually they've just made such a success of it, become known in their local area, got loads of bookings from it, and it's actually fast-tracked their career rather than hindered it.
Yeah.
So I think it's like that kick up the arse that you kind of need. In some ways, it shows what we can all do if we put our minds to it.
100%. I mean, what would you say are the key elements to having and growing a successful family photography business?
Okay, well, I would say number one, it sounds a bit obvious, but just like being a nice person.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of dealing with people in their homes. And I mean, I think to be any kind of photographer, you should be a nice person. But if you're at a big event where you can kind of blend into the background, and you're not, you may be doing a more sort of fly on the wall kind of approach. It's not the event, and everyone's distracted by the event that's going on without you. But with family photography, there's no kind of hiding, and you've got to show up there and make them feel good and make them feel happy and comfortable. And you're in their home, it's their private space, or even if you're out and about, you're with their children, like the most precious things to them. You've got to be really respectful and nice. And so I think number one, actually just being like a nice, friendly person is actually, the biggest thing. But I think from a business point of view, definitely branding and understanding your ideal client. There's not a one size fits all approach to family photography. There's so many different ways you can do it. You see like fine art family photographers, studio family photographers, and outdoor, indoor. I mean, there's every kind of approach. There is no right or wrong, and I think that's the thing. It's a bit like you can sort of find yourself sort of having like shiny object syndrome if you look at too many other photographers, because it's like, well, they're doing it like that, or no, but she's doing it like that, and he's doing it like that, and there just isn't a right or wrong way to do it. You've got to build it from what feels right to you and your own brand and your own values and ethos and approach, and sort of keep it really niche down on that, because you kind of, you're trying to appeal to everyone. You're going to appeal to no one, or you're not going to excite anyone. And so I think really understanding your ideal client and building your brand and your niche around what feels right for you and them is key. And also I would say for family photography, you've just got to get your head around marketing. I mean, I'd say that is true for any photographer, but I think certainly I found it was less urgently needed with weddings, possibly because you kind of get booked far in advance, so you have that safety net of knowing what your income's going to be quite far in advance, and because they're kind of large ticket items, you can get one booking and that sorts you out for the month, whereas it's kind of with family photography, it's not the same. It's much more kind of hand to mouth. People will book you when they want the shoots. You're unlikely to get your diary kind of booked out ages in advance. You might sometimes, or have some booked in, but you need to have this consistent kind of lead generation. Otherwise you're going to spend every month going, how am I going to pay the bills this month? How am I going to pay the bills this month? And it's stressful. So you've just kind of got to, I know we all don't like marketing, but it's kind of, you've got to just get your head around it and actually realise that it's not that scary and it's not that awful, and it's literally just telling people what you do.
Yeah.
You're not, yeah.
What marketing techniques do you find the most useful? Perhaps something that, our listeners are looking to work on. I mean, I know that when I went into wedding photography, slightly different market, but God, I was petrified of marketing. I didn't even know where to start. I didn't think it was the fact that I was scared to do it. It was just, there was so much information surrounding it that I felt like I had to learn a whole new career just to know how to market my business. So what would you say are your top tips?
Okay, well, top tip number one is that you do not need to do every kind of marketing. There are so many different kinds of marketing out there, and you can feel like you need to be doing all of them. Like, well, I need to be on Instagram, I need to be on Facebook, I need to be doing SEO, I need to be doing Facebook ads, I need to be doing in-person events, I need to be doing this, blah, 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 mailing lists. There's like dozens of different marketing techniques that you can do. If you try and do all of them, you will, as a some companies have, most companies will have like a marketing team, not just one person dedicated to, but often like a team. Those are the companies that can do every kind of marketing because they've got someone doing each thing. As a one person or two person, business, while you've got to do all the other stuff that we do as well, you're just not going to be able to do all of them really well. So even if you wanted to, you're not going to be able to anyway. But also, if you try and do them all, you're going to feel overwhelmed, and you'll also do them badly. You'll just sort of half-arse them all the time. And that can be worse than doing nothing, because if you've got a flimsy presence somewhere, that just isn't going to reflect well on you. What all successful businesses have in common is that they've done at least one thing really well. And that's going to be different for different businesses. Like, some photographers will say, I literally get like 90% of my bookings from Instagram, in which case that's great. They've gone all in on Instagram, focus on that, and that's great. Others will say, no, it's my mailing list. Others, it will be like a Facebook group. Others, it might be in-person events, or others, it might be they've got a really good relationship with a wedding venue that just farms clients out to them. Like, it doesn't, there's no, or others, it might be that they have a really solid referral group with other photographers and they all pass, referrals to each other. There just isn't a right or wrong, but you need to find one thing, and it's got to sit right with you personally and feel something that you actually you might not enjoy it, but you at least don't hate it, and it sits right with how you like to do things, and also that your ideal client also enjoys or interacts with. So, for example, for me, I just don't like Instagram. I just don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy being on it, whether it's for work or for pleasure. It's not a space that I like. So I don't really focus on that. I have an Instagram profile, but I'm not it ticks over and does very little else. But that's fine, because what works for me, I find focusing on my mailing list really works, and collaborations with other brands really work. So other brands who serve my ideal client. So for me, I just put it's that 80-20 rule, isn't it? Like, you put 80%, 20% of the things will yield 80% of the results, but 80% of your energy, so I put the vast majority of my energy into my mailing list and collaborations, because those are things that I've done in the past. I enjoy them. They feel right to me. They feel comfortable to me, and they've yielded results. So you just rinse and repeat. It's worked before. So actually, yeah, I could, sometimes you think, I hear people say, oh, but I got all these clients off Instagram. And I also know that a lot of my ideal clients love Instagrams, loads of mums on Instagram and dads, but I just don't like being on it. So I could go, oh, but I'm missing a trick. I could be marketing there, but actually it works for me to just stick with what works and what I know. And I'm not saying I'll never focus on Instagram, but, I don't plan to at the minute.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, I know you briefly touched on it a little bit before, but your branding is something else. Like, I absolutely love it. I was having a really in-depth look through your website when we chatted initially, and every single section, every page, every navigation bar, every image, everything just screams your branding. And I think that's a really unique thing to find. I think some people kind of have a bit of a brand, but then the more you dig deep, the more it kind of disappears and dissipates a little bit. It isn't strong all the way through. So can you perhaps give our listeners some top tips on building a strong brand and where that process came from for you?
Sure. Oh, thanks very much. I really appreciate that. I have to actually as well give a massive high five or thumbs up to Melissa Love, who did do my website, and she's responsible for all the visual side of it and setting that all up. So I can,
Melissa's amazing, isn't
her, can't I? Yeah, the design space. She's lovely, and she did such an amazing job with that. So I can't take all the credit for the website. But in terms of branding, I would say the main few tips is you've got to understand the difference between visual branding and conceptual branding. And lots of people just think of the visual side, like I need to pick a logo, I need to pick some patterns and fonts and colours, and that should be like the last thing that you do, because it's like the clothing. If your brand's like a person, I think of it like a person, so your business is like a person. What actually makes your brand is the personality, the way you speak, the things you say, what you stand for, you know, all of that kind of character is your brand. And the sort of visuals are like your clothes. So they've got to match. It'd be weird if you're kind of one kind of person but in a completely different kind of clothes, because people find that confusing. But the visuals should just complement the conceptual side. Start with the conceptual side, and then once you've got that nailed, then find visuals that complement it. And it helps choose it as well. All that kind of, I don't know what colours to pick or what. Once you've done the conceptual side, it just makes picking the visuals so easy, because it just narrows it right down. And in terms of the conceptual side, it's got to be built from you, because again, just like there's no one right type of personality in people, there's no one right type of brand. You can get loud brands, quiet brands, sensitive brands, bolshy brands, colourful brands, muted, but you know, it's like they come in all different shapes and sizes, just like we do, and they shouldn't all be the same. So don't look to other people's brands to help you form your own, because you'll just keep coming unstuck, because it won't. And people kind of sniff out that inauthenticity as well, of when someone's just trying to kind of emulate someone else, which we all do, particularly in the beginning. I remember trying to get my stuff to look like other people's all the time, but you end up just, it never quite feels right. And that's why, because it's someone else's.
Yeah.
And it really clicked when it's like, stop looking at what other people are doing, focus on what's important to you in life. What do you stand for? What do you believe in? What are your strengths? What are your passions? And build it all from that. And then it becomes very effortless to talk about your business, because it's just stuff that you actually genuinely believe.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I love that. That's I think branding can often be a bit of a scary topic, I think, isn't it? I mean, it's easy to say, you know, look at you, look at what you like, make your branding emulate you. But I think actually that process is much more difficult, isn't it? Of actually looking at yourself and thinking, what do I want my business to say about me?
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of, that's the part of the process that I really focus on when I work with other photographers, because I tend to find, I mean, I've sort of mentored other photographers for years and done all courses, and I would say like 80 and 90% of the problems that they'll come to me with come back to brand. Like there'll be different problems. It's like different symptoms of the same problem, you know, so, and it's usually a lack of clarity around their own brand. So, and I find it's part of business, the business side of things, that I just love. I'm really, really passionate about it, because I find it the most exciting part of the business. It's like the beating heart of your business, and it's totally unique to you. So it's a really rewarding thing to work with people with, because you're not just kind of like slapping them all in the same outfit and going, yeah, put that on, that'll work. But, you know, it's like helping them find their own unique brand. And there are processes that you can go through and questions that you can ask to draw it all out. And it isn't, you're right, it's not a simple process, and actually it can take quite a while. But once you've got it, and once you've got that in place, it makes everything easier, because it helps you to answer loads of other questions that you're stuck on, like which type of editing preset should I use, or like what colour should I use on my website, or which images should I choose for my portfolio, or what should I say in my Facebook ad, or, you know, how should I respond to this client query? You know, how should I, what style should I approach this shoot in? It's like your brand dictates all of that. So it kind of ends up being this blueprint that just makes everything else so much more effortless. So it is kind of it's a time consuming process, but it's just, I can't stress enough how important it is and how worth doing it is.
Definitely. So, I mean, you have, alongside having epic branding, I really love your skill of capturing those really authentic, natural moments, which I know from doing the odd family shoot here and there is really difficult, especially with children. You know, they can be, unless they're, you know, the type of child that perhaps just relaxes in front of somebody immediately, there's a real potential guard up there where they're like, oh, well, I don't know you and I don't like where we are, or it just feels a bit strange. I'm normally just with mum and dad.
Yeah.
So how do you get your clients to relax, especially children?
So I basically, you just have to, it sounds ridiculous, but you have to kind of pretend like you've not got a camera there. So we're always, it's a cliche of things that we're supposed to say to them, oh, forget the camera's there. But they're not going to forget the camera's there if we're not forgetting it's there. If we're focusing on how can I get these pictures, and let me make sure they're in the right light, and let me make sure they're doing things that are going to be okay for my pictures, you're not going to help them to forget about the camera if we're focusing on it. So you have to kind of think, if I was here with this family now for an hour or two without my camera, what would I be doing? And that's exactly what you've got to do. You've got to chat to them, get to know them, play with them, ask them questions. And once you start to interact with them as people rather than photographic subjects, they will stop feeling like photographic subjects and will feel more like the people that they are. And that's when they start to let their guard down around you. And obviously you're still holding the camera, but I'm kind of talking about other stuff that's nothing to do with the photo while I'm taking it. So I'm chatting while it's by my face and chatting, and there's always, people love talking about their children and their families. So even if you're like, I'm obviously a bit of a chatbox and I don't kind of struggle to chat to people. I have the opposite problem. I have to tell myself to shut up. But I do understand that if perhaps that doesn't come as easy, I know it doesn't come as easy to some people and they struggle to, it's difficult. It can be hard making conversation with people you don't know, but ask them questions. If you're in their home, there's loads of stuff to prompt, where the pictures came from, where was that photo taken, oh, these cushions are lovely, whatever it is, you kind of got loads. And if you're out and about, just asking them questions, and not in a disingenuous way, like, I love getting to know people, really enjoy it. So I think just focusing on actually genuinely getting to know that family and really wanting, it sounds a bit weird, but like genuinely wanting the best for them. When you start to come at the shoot from that place of kind of empathy and of really just wanting this to be so great for them, it's like, I don't know, I'm a bit hippie at heart, but I do think that kind of, they feel that, and it does work. It's kind of like, if you care, sorry?
See that in the images.
Yeah, like if you care about them, it shows in the images. Like, and that's why people often take the most beautiful pictures of their own loved ones, because you have that feeling for them, and it shows. It's like if you're thinking of them and that's how you get other people to feel things when they look at your photos. Because if you're not feeling them, how can you expect someone looking at the picture to feel it? Whereas if you're noticing it, thinking, what are they thinking? What are they feeling? What might they be worried about right now? What are they enjoying right now? What might they do next? Like, once you kind of are really in tune with them, you'll notice all these little things that you might miss otherwise if you weren't kind of really committed to getting to know them well and engaging with them. So I think, again, it comes back to like being a nice person. You've got to kind of just, imagine you're there without a camera. And it's easier said than done, but.
No, that's a great tip. I think you know, in a lot of circumstances that can work in a lot of different areas of photography. If you take away your camera, I think you start to appreciate what's around you a little bit more instead of kind of hiding behind it.
Yeah, exactly. For engagement shoots and things, are like couple shots, you know, it's like, again, if you're sort of focusing on, I'm taking pictures of you now, you know, then they're going to feel, whereas if you just try and like have a laugh with them and chat to them and get to know them, you'll get those natural reactions. And asking them questions about each other is a good thing as well, because then you get the way they'll look at each other in a certain way. You know, they'll both have the same memory and it'll be a fun one, or one of them will say something that's funny and the other one laughs, and you get that lovely interaction between them. So encouraging natural interaction between them is really important as well.
Definitely. So I'd love to pick your brains on how you found the difference between pricing moving from wedding photography to family photography. I presume it's a whole different ball game to kind of sit and price yourself effectively and correctly in the market in family photography. So how did you go about that in the first instance?
Yeah, well, you're quite right. It's really different. And in the first instance, I did what everyone does, which is to just price it almost like an engagement shoot, because you're thinking, well, it's like a couple of hours, I'll do that, like 300 quid all in or something like that. And what you'll find with that is that you'll mainly only get people booking you've already shot for, like past couples usually, because even though 300 quid kind of might not seem like a lot, it is a lot of money. And to ask people to part with £300 or however much it is that you're going to charge in one go for something that they've not seen yet, it's like a really big ask. You know, think of all the things you've bought in your life that have cost a few £100s. If the seller was going, well, you can't see a picture of it, just trust me, it'll be good. You're like, you wouldn't get it, would you? The only person you would buy it from is someone you'd already bought from before, because you trust them. That's why you'll find that mainly it'll just be past clients who will book you for this, or other photographers, you know. So to get new business and people booking you who haven't, you've got to have a lower price point. So I always advise, I don't do it all in, you know, charge a smaller shoot fee, and then they pay for what they want afterwards. And people often go, yeah, but when you add that and that, it adds to the same amount anyway. But that's not the point, because, and I get that. And for ages I was like, oh yeah, well, what difference is it? Because they know they're going to have to buy that afterwards. But the thing is, they don't have to buy that afterwards. In their head's always going to be, if I see these images and I don't like them, I won't buy it. You know, we might say, oh, well, there's a minimum spend of this, or the smallest package is that. But ultimately, if they don't want to buy it, I mean, we can't go around, what we're going to do, go and hold a gun to their head and say, you will pay me the minimum package. Of course we're not going to. So it's that safety net of like, well, you know, I'll just see. If I like them, I'll buy them. And if I won't, I won't. It's less commitment. And the other reason is you're just capping it. So if you charge, I'm using 300 as an example because that seems to be quite a common amount that people charge. If you set it at 300, you will never earn more than 300 for a family shoot. And I'll tell you, it's not sustainable to do it if you're wanting to do it full time. If you're wanting to do it as like a little extra in addition to weddings, then yeah, it's sort of like a bit of extra pocket money, I guess. But if you want to actually make a living from it, it's just not sustainable. You'd have to book so many in. Well, you could do it, but you'd have to market like crazy, and you'd be shooting all the time. It'd be hard work to earn a decent living doing it all in, and you'd struggle to get the bookings in the first place for the reason I just said. So it's kind of, but also loads of people are prepared to pay more. You know, it's like you don't know how much they're willing to pay for it until, you know. And so if you have it afterwards, you might have charged them 300 quid for all the images. They might have loved them so much that they'd have happily paid 1,000, but you'll never know if all you've charged is 300. You know. And they do. I mean, my family,
you do like in-person sales with them afterwards, or how do you work that?
No, I don't do in-person sales. I can't think of anything worse, to be honest.
I'm exactly the same.
I thought that that's what I would do when I first started, because that was what we were all told that you should be doing. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but you definitely don't have to do it. I just don't, it doesn't sit right with me for many reasons. Number one, I just don't want to visit people in their homes and sell to them. That's not I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses, and I'm a horrendous salesperson. I'm getting better, but even so, I just don't want to do that. I wouldn't want someone coming and selling to me in my living room. So I'm never going to feel okay about doing it with someone else. And I'm not saying that it's not okay to do that. I know some people do it really well and really respectfully, and obviously they've invited you to be there. You're not just turning up on their doorstep and barging in.
Yeah.
I get that. But it's like what I said with the marketing. If it doesn't feel right to you and natural to you, you're not going to do a very good job of it. So just do it in a way that works for you. And a lot of my clients aren't local either. So I'm in Manchester, but I shoot often down in London. I go down to the south coast and Wales, Scotland. I went overseas last year. Like, I can't pop back to them, and I need something where I can do it from a distance. And I want them to choose the images because they want to, not because I'm sat there grinning at them, making them feel under pressure. I know that under those circumstances, I'm quite soft, and I know that if I had someone in my living room, I would probably spend more than I wanted to because I felt obliged to. And I never want any of my clients to buy from me for that reason. I want the only reason to be because they wanted to. And they can, doing the sales remotely online means they can chat it through in their own time. They can talk about it openly without worrying about me hearing what they're saying. They can, it just works for me. So I don't ever do in-person sales. It's all online.
And do you find that, does the majority of your clients come back to you within kind of a reasonable time scale and say, okay, Anna, we'd love to go with this package, or we want to purchase these images? Or do you find that a lot of people, life gets in the way and you're having to chase people, or have you got a bit of a system in place for all of that already?
Yeah, you've got to have a system, because otherwise they will leave it. And it's like, you can't just go, oh, let me know when you've decided. You've got to tell them. You've got to make it so crystal clear, and ideally get it so they order through the gallery, so it's all, because I mean, for years, you don't have to. For years I did it that they'd reply to me and tell me what they wanted, then I'd invoice them and then they'd pay it. Now I just do it all online through Pixarset. So I've got all the packages in there, so they look at their images and they can buy it, and after they've done that, then I can do the backwards and forwards with them about, well, what size and which image, and we can discuss the kind of details of their order afterwards. But the actual purchase is made online through the gallery. And the advantage with that as well, because you can close the gallery, you can send reminders through the gallery. It makes it much more, you want to take out the personal element of going, hi, just me, just chasing it up. It needs to be, this is how you order, these are the time scales, these are the links, this is the buttons you press, literally just sort of, and you can
kind of a set time scale, so they have 14 days to place an order, and then the gallery goes down, or
so the time scale you use is up to you. And I mean, some people do, like, this is the thing with in-person sales, and I know, like, things like Venture, I mean, they say, oh, I'll delete them there and then. I mean, they have to decide. I mean, it doesn't sit right with me at all, but in-person sales, really, they have to decide there and then on the night. So for online sales, it's up to you. You can similarly give them 24 hours, or you can give them longer, or it's again what you feel comfortable with, but definitely give them a limit and set it out. Don't be just saying to them, let me know what you want. It's too vague and it feels too because what will happen is they're busy. They'll look at the gallery and they'll go, but I don't know what I want and I can't decide. And so they'll just go, oh, I'll think later. And, it just goes on. And the longer it's left, their kids will change. The value of the images will decrease. So good luck getting an order from them in 6 months' time, because they won't want them anymore. And it's reasonable you're not being a dick by chasing them. They've asked you to come and take these photos. you know, we wouldn't dream of like booking a plumber to come in and do something and then going, oh, can I pay you in like 6 months after they've done the work? It's like, no, you asked me to come and do it now.
Yeah.
You know, you've turned down other work to do it. So it's perfectly reasonable to chase, but you need to give them really clear instructions when you send the images, so they know exactly what to do, and then send reminders.
Do you ever find that people try to take advantage of having an online gallery? So do you ever find that people try to have the images or screenshot them or anything like that without actually paying for them? And if so, how do you kind of combat that in advance?
Well, the honest answer is I don't know, because I don't know. They might do, and I'm sure they probably have done at some point. However, again, it's kind of back to brand. Like, maybe I'm being a bit naive with this, but my clients are all dead nice. Like, and I think you kind of, when you have that sort of, you build that relationship with them, they've kind of booked you because they value what you do. And if you're already in that space with them, and then you've got on with them and you've had this nice, I think they're sort of less likely to try and swindle you. But also, I've never really had it that anyone just hasn't then bought. I mean, who knows, maybe they've ordered a smaller package and thought, oh, I'll screenshot the rest, maybe. But I make it so that my minimum package is the minimum I need to get by. So yes, of course, I love it if they buy the bigger ones, but I can still get by if they buy the smaller ones. And ultimately, that's their choice. They can buy this, you know, so, and I feel that, like, I don't watermark the gallery. Well, I watermark the galleries, but I don't watermark the slideshow, because, again, I feel that the benefits outweigh the risks. I want them to see those images big on the screen, looking amazing and feeling really like, oh my God, look at that, without like Anna Hardy, you know, plastered across the front of it. I sort of feel that not doing that and enabling them to do it in their own time actually is more conducive to sales than the risk of them being a bit of an arse and swiping a couple of pictures. So yeah, they might, but I'm not really that bothered, to be honest. And it's the same, like some people say, oh, well, if they've not bought all the images, will you then not use the ones they've not bought in your galleries or in your, because what if they then get them? It's like, do you know what? They've paid me. They've done the shoot. They've paid me. If I want to use it, I'm doing that for me because I like the image and it's good promotion. If they then want to swipe it, fine, good on them. Like, have it. I don't really care. Yeah. You know, it's not. And I feel that you can put a price. People often say, oh, but you can make more with in-person sales. But then you've got to put a price on your time as well. So that's an evening of work, you know, and the travel and all the rest of it. So once you put a price on that and your hourly rate, yeah, they might spend 300 quid more, but you've used 300 quid's worth of work. And I want to be with my kids in the evening. I don't want to be traipsing around with my trolley of products for an extra couple of £100.
Yeah, another quite large part of your business, I think you mentioned at the beginning of our chat actually, was your education side of things with mentoring photographers and things. Can you tell our listeners a little bit more about that? Yeah,
sure. So I've been sort of mentoring other photographers for at least 5 years now. So initially I just sort of did like one-to-one session, like half days or full days. But obviously, as with everything else, that sort of changed over time. And I did online mentoring and portfolio reviews and website reviews and all different various courses. But actually I've simplified it all this year because I was just doing so many different things. And again, like with the marketing, it's like you need to just, you know, narrow it down and focus on doing it well. So now I offer 2 services for photographers, really. There's it's new this year, is a membership for fledgling photographers, so people who are in the process of setting up their photography business, so either wedding or family, or in fact I have a pet photographer in there as well, and personal branding, so not just wedding, any photography really, people photographers, I would say. And that's very much giving them all the tools they need to launch their photography business and get it growing and thriving. And that's like a monthly membership. And within that, I sort of do the mentoring is like through that. So we have like we have weekly coaching calls, we have little live challenges. They can also access one-on-one support. There's add-ons if they want to. So that's the main thing I offer. But I also do a course on a family photography course called The Roost, which is for people who are wanting to either, to diversify into family photography. And that's been running for years. I did that for years as in-person workshops all over the country. But obviously COVID's put paid to that. But for the last couple of years, I've had an online version of it anyway, because a lot of people were saying, well, I want to come, but I can't make that date, or the location doesn't suit. So there's an online course of that.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Now, if you could start your career all over again, is there anything that you'd do any differently?
I would definitely looking less at other people and what they're doing, like we spoke about earlier. I think I spent a lot of probably the first 5 years of being in business just being distracted by what others are doing and thinking, well, that works for them, so therefore I should be doing it. It took a long time for me to twig that it works for them because it's the right thing for them. Like with anything else in life, you've got to do the things that are right for you. So I think definitely zeroing in on my own and understanding branding. I didn't get that it was around the same time, really, 5 to 10 years in, that I was like, now I get it. Yeah. Definitely and getting to grips with business and marketing. I spent too many years going, but I'm a photographer, I don't like this. And you can kind of wing it to a certain extent on that, but it's only going to get you so far. And actually, a lot of the things that you think are going to be really awful and painful and difficult and are really not. It's just kind of built up in your head. So once I sort of invested in lots of business courses and marketing courses and things like that. And as soon as I then learned it, I was like, oh, okay, felt a bit silly.
Not so bad as you thought.
Yeah, and it just grows your business so much better, And I'd have set up a mailing list a lot sooner. Yeah, definitely. Those are probably the main things.
No, that's great. That's perfect. And if there's one perhaps final piece of advice that really made a big difference to your business or your personal life that you could pass on to the listeners that are listening to your podcast today, what would that advice be?
So I would say this is true for business and personal life. I think it definitely with business, but I find it in life in general is, and anyone who's listened to any interviews of me before will be sick of me harping on about this. It's like my favourite quote, but it's like, I got told it when I first was making the switch to become a photographer. And Stuart Randall said it actually, he was a photographer at the time. He then set up Folio Albums, and he was doing a talk, and it was, I credit him with this. He said he was talking about leaving his job to become a photographer, and it was leap and the net will appear. And it's this thing of like, you can kind of procrastinate doing things that are outside your comfort zone. But you just stay in that zone. Whereas if you actually commit to it, you make the leap, you make it work. It's like we were saying with the doorstep shoots and COVID, it's like when you actually have to do it and you step out and do it, you'll do it, you'll make it work.
Yeah.
And I think you sort of, with photography particularly as well, it's so easy to stay in all the behind the scenes work, like tweaking your editing presets, tarting up your website, all this stuff that enables you to stay in like this safe, invisible zone. It's really hard to kind of go for it, but you need to have a clear picture in your head of where you're trying to go. What do you want to achieve? What is it that you want to do? Work backwards from that and make a plan to get there. And then you've just got to step into that space and do it, and you'll make it work. And I believe that kind of in other things in life as well. You've just got to, take that step.
I love that piece of advice. Definitely. You've got to have the fear, haven't you? If you haven't got the fear, it's not going to happen.
Exactly. And I think it's the whole kind of like goldfish bowl thing as well, that like, you know, if you keep your bowl small, you're only going to, you know, when you put a goldfish in a bigger bowl, it like expands, doesn't it? It like expands, that's probably the wrong word. It grows, whatever. But it's the same thing. I think you've got to keep making your bowl bigger. It's kind of, yeah, and you will make things happen, but you've got to step into that space to do it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. If our listeners would like to find out a little bit more about you or get in touch directly with you, Anna, how can they do that?
Well, they can. There's my website, which is annahardy.co.uk. I have a Facebook page, which is Anna Hardy Photo, and Instagram is similarly Anna Hardy Photo. And my contact details, or drop me an email, which is anna@annahardy.co.uk.
Amazing. And the roost and everything like that are all on your main Anna Hardy website?
Yeah, it's all, the website split in the main navigation. There's for families and for photographers. So under the for photographers menu, there's all the information about the Shutterhood and the Shutterhood's the community for new photographers, and the roost. Yeah, that's all in there.
Amazing. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time. It has been such a pleasure chatting with you. I've loved every second.
Oh, thank you. No, thanks so much for having me. I've really enjoyed it too. It's really nice to chat.
Hopefully once the world all settles down again, we'll be able to catch up in person soon.
Yeah, that would be really nice. I know, if I can ever stop doing Halloween crafts as well. When they stop, when COVID and endless Halloween crafts stop, that would be lovely.
And then it'll be Christmas.
I know. Oh God, I know.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time, Anna, and hopefully we'll catch up soon.
Thank you, Sally. Really nice to chat to you. Take care.
See you later. Bye. Okay, guys, that's everything from me today. Thank you so much to Anna for coming and joining us on the show. She shares so much invaluable knowledge and some real tips and tricks for family photographers. For the show notes, you can head to www.studioninja.co/episode 14. Please don't forget to rate us on the platform that you've been listening on. A little love goes a very long way. I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of NinjaCast, brought to you by Studio Ninja. Beautifully designed and super easy to use, Studio Ninja will help you manage your leads, clients, shoots, invoices, contracts, workflows, and so much more. To learn more or start your 30-day free trial, go to www.studioninja.co.